Hi, it's August of 2019. My name is Chad C. Watson. I'm 38 years old. I've been reading this book, Children of the Graves by Brett Oldham. And reading this has almost been like reading an autobiography to some extent. And I made contact with Brett because we have a lot of things in common. We're both from Southern Illinois. We're both a Native and Celtic mix. That's our ethnicity. And I've always heard that certain mix is prone to have psychic abilities and other things. I've heard that from a couple different places, but even other than that, he and I had a lot in common, and a lot of behaviors in common growing up. So I got a hold of him, and he encouraged me to do a more in-depth video than the one I already have up about me possibly being abducted by aliens. So anyway, this is my recollection of all the weird stuff that's happened to me in life. It's going to cover paranormal, like ghosts and stuff, UFOs, psychic abilities, reoccurring dreams. And I want to see what people think. And I think that all of it is connected somehow, possibly. And I think the root cause is I may have been abducted by aliens. So let's get started. I grew up in Rosiclare, Illinois. I lived with my grandparents most of the time growing up. And even when I didn't, before I full on moved in with them, I stayed there all the time. Now, the house they lived in is believed to be haunted by me. My mom thinks it might be, and I've heard that the rumor is around town that it's haunted. Now, I do know one previous owner committed suicide, but from what I heard, he didn't do it in the house. He jumped down a mine shaft. I do not have the name of this person, but that's what I've always heard. My earliest memory of anything weird going on in that house is in the early 80s when I'm going to guess around 3 years old. I believe that I saw hands coming up from the floor, like ghostly hands. Now, I could be remembering a dream I had as a kid, but that's a image that's always stuck in my head. And also growing up, now once I got a little bit older, like I'm talking around the age of 9, 10, 11, somewhere between like 9 and 11, I think. I used to see this white thing in one of the rooms of the house. Now, if I was looking over here this way, I'd see like this white streak kind of fly by, and I'd turn just in time to see it. And I saw this thing a lot. I saw it so much that I wanted to try and catch it. And this went on for a long time. I mean, at least several months, if not a year or so. And I eventually stopped seeing it. My mom claimed that an unseen force did shove her on the stairs going from the middle floor to the upstairs where the bedrooms were. So as far as ghostly stuff, that's probably the creepiest. And like I said, most of the stuff happened, between the ages of like 3 and 11. And I haven't had a whole lot of ghostly things. And I always took a big interest in paranormal research, even as a young kid, like in young grade school. Well, but the big turning point, I always was fascinated with UFOs, but I didn't know much about this abduction phenomenon. In fact, I don't think I knew anything about that, just that possibly there were aliens flying ships around the skies. Well, in 1988, there was a television program called UFO Cover-Up Live. And what it was a TV special, and it had abductees, people who had seen UFOs, scientists, ufologists, you name it. And anyway, and I know one person on there is known to he's one of these people that spreads disinformation about everything and causes a lot of confusion. So his segments of the show are now deemed uncredible, and he's just an uncredible source. At least that's what most UFO researchers believe. He's one of these people that's put out there to deliberately put out disinformation. Anyway, so my grandpa tapes me this TV show. I didn't know it'd been on, and he said, "Hey, I taped you a show about UFOs. Like supposedly real ones, kind of like, real spaceships, like Star Wars." And he said Star Wars. And like a lot of kids, if not most in the 80s, I was fanatical about Star Wars. I still am to a certain degree. And so I watched this, and it gets to the point where they're talking about abductions, and they show this picture of a gray, big head, big black eyes. And I am in awe. I am scared out of my mind. I am intrigued. Every emotion you can name goes through me, like way more so than what probably should be. And from then on, I read every book I can get my hands on. My school library actually had a good amount of UFO books, and I'd read ghost books too, but I was always way more into UFOs. But anyway, any TV show that came on, any magazine I saw, anything that had to do with UFOs or alien abduction, I was on it. But also during this time, I was scared out of my mind. I did not sleep at night for years after seeing this program, and I would watch this over and over because we had it, recorded off TV on a VHS tape. Over and over, watch this thing. But I was scared to death at night. I didn't sleep most nights. I'd wake up at some point in the middle of the night and then just lay there in the darkness, looking around, waiting to see if I was going to be abducted. And due to this fear, I slept in the same room with my grandma for many years, like a lot longer than most kids do. In fact, when I was real little, I'd sleep in bed. Because in '88, when that show came on, I was like 7 years old. I'd want to sleep with her in bed, and I'd wake up in the middle of the night and make her hold me. Or at one point, we had 2 beds in my bedroom, and we slept kind of like with the beds meeting like this, and I'd wake her up and make her like hold my arm in the middle of the night. And I'd just be scared to death. If I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I'd make her sit at the top of the stairs and wait for me to go down. And we had this big bay window in the dining room area, and I'd be eyeballing that window the whole way to the bathroom, and then the whole way back, looking up in the sky, seeing if I'd see anything. I did not want the curtains open at night. I wanted all the curtains closed. I didn't want anything to see in. And that's the thing, living in this house up even through into my 20s, when I would go visit, I just felt like something was watching me or something was looking in. That feeling that something's out to get you, but you don't know where it's at, but there is something out, like trying to do harm to you or chase you or something. That's how I felt at night in that house. Even sometimes during the day. Now, where that bay window was aimed one time, and this would have been right before that TV special. So, and I was already aware of, like I said, of UFOs. I saw a bright light shoot straight like this, hover for a second, and then go in the sky. And it looked a lot like this clip I'm about to show you from a TV commercial for the Time Life book series, Mysteries of the Unknown. Other weird things I saw there was my house was pretty much on the edge of the woods, and I would see lights shooting up in the sky, like from the ground up is what it looked like spotlights almost. And I've been in those woods a bunch. There's nothing back there like that. And if you go far enough back, you do hit the Ohio River, and my grandma would swear it was barges. Yes, there's a lot of barges on the Ohio River, and they do shine their lights, but I have never in my life seen them shoot straight up in the air. It's always just like, scanning the river and the banks. Now, can they shoot straight up in the air? I don't know. I'm not saying they can't. I'm not saying it wasn't a barge, but it was still pretty weird. Let me look at my notes here. I did have a couple of odd occurrences waking up to. There was one morning I woke up, and I always slept in a t-shirt and underwear, and I woke up and my underwear was missing. I have no idea where they were at. I don't remember ever even finding them. I just knew that I was freaked out because, man, I'm going to have to walk downstairs with no bottoms on in front of my family. But yeah, I remember that, and I don't think I found them in bed. They were just like flat out missing. I might have found them in bed, but it's still weird. Why were they off? But I don't think I ever found them. And it really confused me. Another thing that happened one time whenever I was sleeping in bed with my grandmother is I woke up out of nowhere to the sheets and covers just flying and flaring. My grandmother was dead asleep, and just like total chaos. It was like a tornado was in the room. And I'm almost positive there was no fan on in the room, and a fan wouldn't do this. And even if the window was open, the wind and where the bed was, there's no way. There's just no way. It was like a tornado hit. I was in a dead sleep and woke up. I was either in a dead sleep and woke up, or I was snapping out of a trance if something happened. But I just remember being aware and awake out of nowhere, and covers just flying all over, and scared to death, and then it calmed down. It didn't last very long. But that's 2 weird things that happened to me as a kid growing up. I used to always want to sleep with my bed against the wall, and once I finally started sleeping by myself, I made sure to do it that way. In fact, I used to fantasize of having like my bed shoved into a corner somewhere where there was walls all around it so that the grays couldn't get me. I also, there were some nights, though, as a kid, I'd hope for them to come. Because it's like, you know what? I want to see them. I want to see if these things are real. I want them to come. I want to just get it over with. I want to see what they're like. And I get all brave. But most nights wasn't like that. In fact, most nights I dreaded going to bed because I knew I'd be asleep for a couple hours and then be up for most of the night, scared for my life. But the night that I always dreaded came November 1st at around 1 something in the morning. The night before, of course, was Halloween, and I went out soaping windows and doing all kinds of, dumb kid stuff. I woke up, and I was 15 years old. It was 1996, and I had been sleeping, by myself, and had a room actually on the downstairs of the house. But we painted those ceilings, or my grandparents painted those ceilings like a brush and made the ceilings all like spiky and shit. So I had to sleep in bed upstairs with my grandma that night. I had to, because everything was covered up so that paint wouldn't drip down on it. And I remember we slept in my grandpa's bed because I think it was the biggest one up there, and he slept in one of the twin beds because my grandparents didn't sleep even in the same room together until they got pretty old. Anyway, so I wake up, it's like 1 something in the morning. I know because I look at the clock, it's around 1:15, I think. And I look over to my side and I see what I believe to be a gray. And I've been in a couple situations where I've almost died, and that wasn't near as scary as this. My heart was beating like a jackhammer. I just didn't see like the outline of a gray. I saw the eyes and like made out the slit for the mouth, the whole shebang. And our upstairs was actually a finished out attic, like what I'm in now. I don't know if you can see how these walls slant down, but it's kind of the same situation. And where this thing was standing, which was 3 feet or less from me, I'm guessing more about 2 feet. No person could have been standing there like that. In fact, it was just me and my two grandparents, and they were both dead asleep. And so I kind of roll over, and because of my years of research, I was like, why am I not paralyzed? And I said, even if I want to act like I'm asleep, this thing is probably reading my mind and knows that I'm not asleep. But I still act like I'm asleep anyway, and roll over. And I kind of move my head around, squint my eyes, and it's still there. And I'll look at it 2 or 3 times at least. I'm pretty sure 3 at least. And it's just standing there looking at me, and I'm like, oh man, this is it. This is it. I knew it was going to happen after all these years of being scared to death to sleep. It's finally come for me. And then one of the times I look over, it's gone. And I'm like, what? And the head of the bed was at some windows, and I'm looking out in the yard or in the driveway to see if there's anything that could have cast a shadow to make it look like that. And I'm like, no, I mean, there was no way. And I really believe I saw one by my bed. And the thing is, I've heard, and I haven't heard this from this person, but I do know someone that supposedly short distance down the road from my house, off toward the woods down the road, saw grays out in a field one time. Let's see here. After that, or actually the first time might have been right before that, but around that time I started waking up with severe nosebleeds. And the first time ever was at my best friend's house, and we were sleeping on his mom and dad's couch in the living room. And I bled so much I soaked through the arm cushions that were about that thick. And his mom thought I completely burnt the couch. And then I remember one night, and real quick, I slept with the TV on. And I'd usually keep it on a Christian station because I'd read that, if you cast if you tell the grace to leave you alone in Jesus' name and all this religious stuff, that they'll go away. So I slept with the TV on the religious station a lot of nights. Excuse me. Well, this night I was around 16, and a Marilyn Manson video was on TV. It was the video for the song Tourniquet. And I remember I woke up with a vicious nosebleed. So there's been a handful of times, and once as an adult in my 30s, I woke up one morning with a nosebleed, but that one wasn't as bad as I used to be. Whenever I used to wake up with them, back as a teenager, it was just vicious. It was like a bloodbath. Trying to think. One other. Now, in my 20s and even up into my 30s, I've had some weird occurrences. where I wake up, or I'm trying to wake up, and I feel like I'm being floated through hallways. Like basically like if I was laid back on a hospital gurney or something, and I feel like this force is like dragging me through the air, and I always feel like I'm going down and then like sharply cutting corners. And I know I'm trying to scream and break free the whole time and can't. And I'm trying to open my eyes and I can't do anything. And eventually I do wake up in my bed. But it's really scary. And is it sleep paralysis? Maybe. I don't know. I've heard about what sleep paralysis is like, and that might be it, but it's always a feeling of being moved. And one time, I don't know if I was dreaming. I'm pretty sure I might have been dreaming this, but I want to say that I woke up and did see some gray-like figures involved in this. But I don't know if I was dreaming about something that really happened, because I've had dreams where I'm dreaming about this happened, but this time it really is happening, where I'm like struggling to open my eyes and to scream and to move, try my best to even move a finger and can't, and figure out what seems to be dragging me away. I have had I've had some dreams about the Greys, but none of them are like really realistic. They're just, in fact, I know I've had one dream about me going up on a ship with me and a couple of friends, a ship that was in my yard, and I lived in town. It was on the edge of the woods, but in town. It's hard to explain, but anyway. But none of them were like super realistic. I've had dreams where the Greys are like nice to me, or like, but it's nothing like where I'd be recalling a memory. It just seems very dreamlike, very artificial. But more disturbing than any of that is I have this reoccurring dream where I'm outside and over, like, and then right outside my house, I see a big ship, this huge, extremely lit up, like, spacecraft, like, just going across the sky, really low. I'm talking, like, super low, like, and like, in my dream, the ship looks different every time, except for that it's always, like, lit up really brightly, and it's never, like, a saucer shape or anything. It's usually really weird looking, real junky and weird looking. And I want to say a couple of times in the dreams, there's been like helicopters flying around it trying to like do something about it. But I think I've had dreams of helicopters. But yeah, I know for a fact I've had several dreams where I'm outside my backyard and looking at the edge of my yard and seeing this big, just weird looking spaceship flying by. And so I guess now I'd like to talk about some other odd dreams. Okay, so not so much recurring dreams, but reoccurring dream locations. The only real reoccurring dream I think I've ever had is the one about the spaceship. Now, these don't have anything to do with UFOs, but I believe there could be some connection to my possible abduction and possible psychic abilities. I have a dream. I have a recurring dream location that behind the house I grew up in, there's like a Mayan-looking temple, and some of these dream locations I'm going to talk about, I can show you where they're at in real life, where they would be, but out in the woods behind my grandparents' house is always really mysterious. I went out there once with my dad, and a couple of times with my grandma. There's an old cemetery out there that's still grown up now. You have to know where it's at, but back then it was still kind of taken care of a little bit. But anyway, I always have dreams of going to this like ancient looking temple out in there in the woods. And what's funny is in 2015 I went to the Koala Boundary, North Carolina, also known as the Cherokee Reservation. It's not like a real reservation, but that's a subject not for this video, but possibly another, or we'll just look it up. Anyway, so I go to the Cherokee Museum, and I'm in there looking around, and I look up on the wall, and I see a painting of this thing that looks like what I visited in my dreams. And it was a painting of Cahokia Mounds. Be sure to look up Cahokia Mounds. And the Cahokia Mounds is here in Illinois. It's not that too far from me, but I'd never been to Cahokia Mounds. And as big as Cahokia Mounds is, you can't really see how temple-like it looks. But in this painting, it looked almost identical. You know, and all my native family's from North Carolina. That's why I wanted to go down there, because I was real big, heavy into researching my mom's dad's side of the family, because he never knew much about it. And I found a bunch of stuff and ended up finding out, you know, they came here from North Carolina and all this. And I went down there. But anyway, that's why I was there. And I was like, wow. I said, does this have something to do, you know, with me or my family? Like, why would I dream of this place? Now I see it. And also, there was a part of that, of the reservation, that I saw that I was like, man, this place looks familiar. And I was like, hey, I dreamed about a place that was almost exactly like this once. And then I have a lot of dreams, locations that involve water. Like there's a beach, a really cool looking beach I went to in my dreams. To get there in my dream, it's at a certain road in Hardin County, gravel road. It ends up looking like a beach like in Oregon or somewhere. Like you know, the beaches in the Goonies, stuff like that. That's what it looks more like. Or there's a pond, this really eerie looking pond I have dreams about going to. And on the road that you would go to in real life to get to this pond, like there's a pond near there, but it's not as scary as in my dreams. Like I'm saying, like I could take you and show you in real life, like, hey, this is where this place is that I dream about, but it's not here in reality. But this is where it should be located if it were real. And I have a dream of an alternate version of Anna, Illinois. And to get there, you've got to go over one of those bridges that's, you know, that like raise up for boats to go under. But my dream, it's always up, and somehow I always make it to the other side. I think I've ramped my car over it before in a dream, or sometimes it's kind of like a pier on the other side. And there's certain stores I go to in this alternate version of Anna, Illinois. But the Anna, Illinois that I dream of is nothing at all like what actually exists. In fact, when I started dreaming, I don't think I'd ever been to Anna, Illinois yet. But anyway, so basically, I have dreams of alternate versions of real locations, except for when it comes to the Cherokee Reservation. I saw at least a picture of a place that I've been to in my dreams, or something so similar it's ridiculous. So with that, I want to talk about psychic abilities. You know, they say those of us that are native Celtic mix are prone to have psychic abilities, and to say I'm a full-blown psychic would be incorrect, or if I am, I haven't unlocked the full potential of my ability. Basically, the extent of it is I know things are going to happen before they do, or I'm going to see a certain person before I do, but it's always weird, insignificant stuff for the most part. It's always like I might be going, let's say I'm somewhere where I don't think I'd ever run into somebody I knew, and in my head I think, oh, I'm going to run into so-and-so, and I just know it, and sure enough, I end up running into that person. Or I'll think, I'm going to know somebody I know here, and sure enough, it is. In fact, sometimes I know exactly who it is, sometimes I don't. Or sometimes I just know things are going to happen. And I don't know, it's just weird, and it's always at random. There's no way of predicting it. It's like it just pops in my head, hey, this is going to happen, or you're going to run into this person, and sure enough, it happens. So that's it for the extent of psychic abilities. I have you know, I'm not claiming to be a full-blown psychic, but it is weird whenever I know, like, have this gut feeling something's going to happen, and it does. And like I said, it's random. It's always it's usually something insignificant or stupid or meaningless, but it does happen. As far as seeing actual UFOs or flying objects, aside from the thing that I mentioned that I saw that looked like the thing from the Time Life Unsolved Mysteries of the Unknown, you know what I'm trying to say. Cut. Okay, as far as seeing UFOs or spacecrafts, aside from the one in my dream and the one that I saw over the rock piles by my house that looked like the thing off the Mysteries of the Unknown book series commercial, here where I live now, where I'm filming, I've seen 2 UFOs here in Shawneetown. One, I went out to smoke one night, and I see a black triangle fly over my house, and it's low, and there's no lights on it. I didn't see any lights, and it was dead silent. And it wasn't like it was way up in the sky. It was low because it looked about that big. You know, maybe even bigger. But I mean, it was good size, so it was flying low. Not a sound. And I didn't see it for a second. I watched this thing go over my house and fly off to the distance to where I couldn't see it anymore. So went through some trees, or over some trees. And then not too long ago, I was out walking my dog, and I walked down the bank, and I see a blue dot in the sky moving. And it looked like about the size of a bright star, and it flew up and then just stopped. And I was like, I wonder if that's a satellite or something, you know? And then it went down after it hung for a minute, and it stayed there for a little bit, and then it went off to the right. And then it started flying away, and I've got my dog, I'm like, come on, you know, and it's wanting to like stop every minute and sniff something or pee, and I ended up losing track of it. Could it have been a drone? Very possibly, I guess. I mean, it looked way too far up in the sky to be a drone, but things are not always as they seem. Most definitely was not a helicopter, or it sure as hell was no kind of airplane. Could have been a satellite. I've seen satellites before, and this didn't look like a satellite. They usually just look like a star. This is a blue, you know, a blue light. That's why it caught my attention. It was like, it didn't look like anything else in the sky. And with all that said, I think that's going to about tie it up. I think I've talked about everything I can that I know to. What's your take? Have I been abducted by aliens? You know, it seems that the evidence is there, but I don't have any clear recollections of it. And I know most people don't remember anything. I am very interested in going through some hypnotherapy or you know, regressive hypnosis, whatever you call it, and seeing it. I heard that for abductees, this is an extremely traumatic thing, but I'm at the point in my life I want to know. I don't want to die not knowing if they ever came for me or not. I know the fear I have of the grays, it's still here today. I still wake up in the middle of the night now beside my wife. There's times I almost want to wake her up just to make sure she's not knocked out and they're getting ready to come for me. It's a fear. I'm pushing 40 years old and I'm still utterly terrified of these things. And to me, and it's the greatest fear I have in life. And I still dread waking up and seeing one of them again. And I just wonder if I've been taken, you know, if I'm still being taken, or if I ever was, or if I was, when did it stop and how many times. But anyway, with what I've told you, with all the bizarre experiences, because dreams, ghosts, or paranormal stuff, you know, and which UFOs are part paranormal, but you know, ghosts, you know, spirit stuff, psychic abilities, dreams. I mean, this all ties in with the UFO phenomenon and alien abduction. So I've basically given you my experiences, which are not near as intense as some people's, but they're still interesting, and they still, you know, definitely hint that something's been going on. But anyway, let me know what you think, and until next time, stay safe, stay away from the grays.